I'm Tammy Couples, Executive Director of Online Learning and Academic Technologies. I think it was back in October when Jose said to me, there's this really amazing speaker on NFTs and digital fashion. You have to check her out. So it really originated with Jose. And I did and was blown away by how exciting her online talks were and how much I thought FIT faculty would be interested in what she had to say. So big thanks to our partners, Elaine and the CET, for working with us and really working their magic to make this happen. And of course, to Syama for being up for this. So I'm thrilled to introduce Syama Meagher, who is the founder and CEO of Scaling Retail, the global consulting firm for the fashion retail industry, as well as co-founder of Rendell Company, a COVID initiative PPE and workwear brand that was able to donate 60,000 masks. Her agency clients include fashion, lifestyle, cannabis, and beauty brands. Syama is at the forefront of what's happening now in retail and speaks on business development, sales and marketing, Web3, digital fashion and NFTs, our favorite, and more for fashion and retail. She's presented talks with Magic, Tory Burch, Shopify Women, Liberty Fairs, and more, and has been quoted in NPR, Inc. magazine, and WWD. So I will turn it over to Syama. Thanks so much for being here, Syama. We're really excited.
I'm so excited to be here. I think that we are at this incredible advent in history right now, where we are literally experiencing this very messy development of how the world is shifting and changing. And what I think is so incredible about this moment is that things are being built and they're being broken, and there is no roadmap. So what I think is so important today is we're going to go over what people are doing, what's been working, what's not working, what's the entire landscape. But please come with this very open mind that there are no wrong questions. I certainly won't have all the answers because we are building as we go. And so almost take yourself back to where things were when people started building websites, right? Today, it's so easy to get on Shopify and say, hey, I'm going to start a website or start a business. But this concept of Web3, and I'll break down what it means, but this concept of Web3 is quite literally what it used to be like at the very beginning of building websites and that sort of consumer technology. So it is messy. You guys are early adopters in this space, right? So when we start to think about how we are changing and shaping the minds of the people around us, how our own personal lives are going to be influenced by this, we are very, very early adopters. So kudos to you guys for keeping an open mind kind of as we are building. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I've got some slides to go through, but really, if you guys have questions, if things are coming up in terms of application or ideas, we'll have some time at the end, but this is also very much about everyone here. And to my understanding, it seems like everyone here today is coming from a different point of fashion, which means that this industry of fashion and all of you guys here are going to be significantly impacted by Web3 because it's going to permeate everything, right? We're talking not just how people are learning how to design for the metaverse and design clothing online, but also in terms of how we think about receiving payment, right? And how people are going to start to get paid, and also the kinds of jobs that are going to be available, right? I was just looking this morning because things are changing all the time, and Gucci has a job opening right now for a Discord manager. Now you might be wondering, what is Discord? And I'll talk about some of the systems and tools people are using, but that is not a job opening, guys, that I think I would have ever planned to have seen in my life. You know, it's so interesting how the fashion industry is really rising to the call of this, which is also, I think, pretty new, right? Like when we think about our industry, things are kind of, in my mind, things run a little bit slower typically, right? You don't necessarily see mass adoption of innovation at scale or that sort of momentum. Certainly when it comes to changing things like ERP systems or how people are designing and all those tools and technologies, it's been slow to adopt and evolve. And now what's so amazing is we are seeing the fashion industry rising up to this call, to this challenge of saying, hey, we want to be first and we want to make an impact. And they're saying that because there is a lot of momentum and money to be made. So that is why everyone's here today. Inspire everyone, but also figure out how do we equip our communities to get a seat at the table early on and to be able to take advantage of being able to be first to market. So let me go ahead and share the screen. All right, guys. So today we are talking about digital clothing, NFTs, fashion's future. In fact, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Decentraland Metaverse Fashion Week started yesterday. Now, that is pretty wild. And it's not just like a bunch of kids decide to put on a fashion show. We are seeing people who are entering into the space like Nicholas Kirkwood, lots of big designers who are saying, hey, I want a seat at this table. And so we are lucky to have this conversation during some really exciting opportunities in the space. So as it was mentioned, I'm the founder of Scaling Retail. I basically consult and work with brands globally, really kind of in a very 360-degree manner. Right now, I am centering my work at the intersection of consumer and Web3. It is really my feeling that Web3 will be defined by the brands that are able to make it important to the consumers rather than the technology. And the best way that I like to describe that is, no one cares how Google is made, right? You just like the fact that you can go onto a site called Google and find whatever you need, right? So we're obsessed with the brands that make things popular. The technology is really just the vehicle. Now you'll notice on here I have my Twitter and my Instagram, as well as Discord on here in terms of a way to get in touch with me. Now, why is that? Well, Discord is really one of the primary ways in which people are engaging in the space. So if you're like, I think I might want to do a little bit more after today's talk, go ahead and download Discord and get yourself a handle. The other place where a lot of these conversations are happening are on Twitter. Now, for me, I've never really been so big on Twitter, but a lot of the NFT conversations, digital fashion conversations are on Twitter. Instagram is really kind of like the third way in which people are engaging in the space. And you might be asking yourself, well, in a landscape where we're talking about JPEGs and visual assets, wouldn't Instagram just be the natural fit in terms of having a place to showcase what the art looks like? But in fact, it's not the case, right? It is really Twitter and Discord that are the two primary channels that we are communicating. So come find me and we can build on those platforms. Now, today we're going to talk a little bit about the state of the world. We're going to talk about Gen Z's, digital fashion, digital currency, NFTs, this phygital future, which honestly, hate that name, right? It's like phygital, someone needs to rebrand that. Maybe you guys can rebrand this. And the new ecosystems and future-proofing your brands, right? How do you take a look at these people who you're ushering into the world and say, how do we future-proof, right? How do we make sure that we are on the cutting edge here? So there's a lot of momentum, right? I opened up today saying that there's so much money in this space, right? 2020, $100 million were spent in NFTs. 2021, 22 billion spent in NFTs. By 2022, forecasted to hit $35 billion. And by 2025, $80 billion. Okay, so this is insane, right? When anyone today might say, well, why should I care? Well, if you take a look just really on at the economic level, if the resources are flowing in a certain area, we have to ask ourselves, how are we going to contribute and be a part of this momentum, right? And what does that contribution look like? And how do we take a slice of the market, right? And so what I think is so fascinating, there are so many ways to be able to introduce yourself to the space as a creator, as someone who is interested in receiving crypto, right? So you can create NFTs, you can receive cryptocurrency, you can trade it as an asset class. There are so many ways in which you can start to build. And so we'll go over a couple of those different channels, but guys, the money is here, right? And so we almost have this strong sense of responsibility to be able to go into the direction where the momentum is happening. So today, it's so funny. We opened up talking about, being on Zoom, being in person. where is the industry headed? Where are we today? Well, today's conversation is happening on Zoom. And in fact, during the pandemic, and we're still inching our way in and out of this, we saw the rise of so many more people spending so much more time behind their computers. Now, for us, that might be a, dumb no-brainer, right? Like, oh yeah, of course we're behind our computers. We had no choice. But many of us didn't really recognize that before the pandemic, there were lots of young people who were spending more and more of their time behind the computer. Now, why is that important? Why do we care? Well, when we're thinking about where we spend our time and where we're looking at increasing our value for our time, it becomes really important to have opportunities to engage. And in 2020 and 2021, we saw the rise of more crypto billionaires, right? And millionaires who are under the age of 25, and many millionaires under the age of 18. Now, this, for the first time, guys, is an opportunity where we are seeing people who are creating and generating wealth in a space that is not necessarily generational wealth. Historically, a lot of brands, everyone was looking at catering to people who are receiving generational wealth from the luxury sector. And now today, we have an opportunity to tap into a market, right? A really strong market that is not being inheriting generational wealth, that is actually being more speculative in terms of how they're investing. The people who are spending so much more time online, who are playing these video games and earning cryptocurrency from their time, right? How amazing is that for us to be able to take a step back and say, my time is actually worth something. It was so funny. The other day I was on Twitter Spaces and I heard a kid saying that he was going to go into work today. He was working in the service industry, but he took a look and saw that his crypto portfolio had increased in value. And he said, you know what, I'm not going to go into work today. And I actually found that to be really fascinating on multiple levels. One is obviously looking at where your time and energy is most likely to be valued. And then also from the standpoint of saying, what is it that I have to be willing to live with? And if we're able to democratize this access to cryptocurrency and to trading, which we are, and it's slowly building and building, we're going to see huge shifts in terms of how our economy and distribution of labor is happening, right? So that I think is super impactful. Anyway, hopefully people still go into their restaurant jobs and their service jobs, and not everyone is certainly on crypto, and it is still a very, very small percentage of people who are early adopters into the space, but the ones who are taking that risk and saying yes are the ones who are benefiting. Okay, AR, Roblox, IRL, what is going on in the spaces? Well, I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with Roblox. I certainly wasn't. I don't have any kids. I hear it's a game that is big with kids. I'm only now in the last year interested in Roblox. And why am I interested? Because Roblox is one of and there are a few that are quite big. Roblox is one of an incredible gaming platforms where people are able to build and create their own universes and their own spaces. And what is fascinating about not only just the number of people and young people who are on Roblox, but the way in which Roblox has been able to consider itself and transact on it and create their own currency, right? Their own ways of engaging with each other. You can buy assets on Roblox, you can buy clothing on Roblox, and it's all for that digital universe. Almost like back in the day when we had Sims, right? It was like, people were like, oh, I can build and create and do things. And then it came, it went, right? And now we have this whole new era of people who are spending so much more time, have that increased value in terms of this new currency, and they're looking for ways to find value. And if we 30,000 feet this, right, it makes a lot of sense. If I have millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars in cryptocurrency, well, I want to be able to create value and meaning for that, right? So how do I create value and meaning? I need products, I need services, and I need opportunities and ways to engage. So Roblox, I think, is a fantastic example of that. Roblox has done a ton in terms of its collaborations with Gucci, Lots of other fashion brands are launching and doing things on Roblox. And what I love about it, again, is their openness and willingness to create this ecosystem of commerce. And also because they're kind of first to market in a gaming platform, this is a great opportunity because there's a really big market share. And in fact, aside from the bigger fashion brands that have been building on Roblox, we are now starting to see brands that are launching digital first. And Roblox is one of the places that they're launching. So that I think is incredible, right? We're no longer launching physical products and just looking for those digital counterparts, though lots of brands are doing that. We're also seeing people who are launching brands specifically on these platforms, right? Totally fascinating. Now, the other thing that I think is so exciting here is when we think about the, AR, augmented reality, and how we're creating for that. That I think is also very, very important. So you'll see here on the slide, there's an example here from Machine A. What I love about this is Discord. So I will give you, Kathleen, I will give you some information here on Discord towards the end. We'll kind of go through that. So I'm going to going back to Command L. Okay, perfect. So Roblox is important. I have the chat up. I think I'm able to do all this simultaneously. Thanks, guys, for bearing with me. So augmented reality is really important. And what I love about augmented reality is, again, we are not constricted by space, right? We can create immersive experiences. And people, for the longest time, were wondering, why on earth would anyone care about augmented reality or about digital fashion? What is the real emotional tie here? And what I think is important to understand is that when you look at, again, increasing your time in a space, you want to create value and meaning. And that I think is the most important thing to walk away with, right? Value and meaning. So if I'm in a digital world or I can't make it to Fashion Week and I want to experience something, or I want to experience a pop-up, right? I can now do so without necessarily having to travel, which is very important in today's day and age. So like I mentioned, we've got the Metaverse Fashion Week that's going on, guys. It's a little clunky. I think it's going to get a lot better. Please don't hold it against anyone. I think these days when people are saying, hey, but it's not pretty, it doesn't look good, we are in early stages. And so as we're looking at, educating and getting people into the space, we don't necessarily want to look at what has been done in order to replicate it. We want to look at what's been done in order to study it and say, how can I literally do this better? Best practices are hard to find, but examples of things that are, something that's done well, a lot of things that are not done well, that starts to give you key indicators of where you can start to build in the space. So I want to talk about a few different projects and how people are looking at the metaverse from this perspective. Now, this is an interesting project here called Mavion. And what I love about Mavion, and I hope you guys get a chance to take a look at it, is this is one of the first launches, and they just launched a few weeks ago, where you are actually able to mint an NFT, right? So that means that you would open up a MetaMask wallet, right? And I can go through some of the steps, right? You want to take your money from your bank account, your Chase bank account, or wherever, and you're gonna migrate those resources to Coinbase. You'll take those resources from a Coinbase platform and then put that onto a digital wallet in which you're going to transact. So there are a few different steps and hurdles to get there. But once you get into that wallet and you say, hey, I want to play and buy an NFT, you're kind of forced with all these questions, right? Who do I want to buy my NFT with? What are the invitations or the projects? What is exciting and new for me? And so what I love about this Mavion project is that they are doing something fascinating, which is for every NFT that you mint, you will be able to unlock a physical accessory. And so you'll see here, there are different ways in which this is going to be able to have some utility. The unlockables means that I'm going to get that pair of earrings or that handbag that comes with the NFT. There's an augmented reality component of this NFT, which means that that accessory, right, is going to be able to be worn on Instagram, right? It is going to be able to be worn on these different platforms. That's incredible, right? And then when we think about the sustainability component of this, Mavion is giving back to the creators a percentage of the royalties on the secondary market in perpetuity. Now, if anyone here is an artist, a creator, anyone who makes work, photographers, anyone who's doing anything creative, you've really never before seen the opportunity to build into a contract something quite like this that you can actually track over time. Now, what I think is fascinating is that these idea, and we're not going to get super technical here, it's still high level, but the idea of this contract, which in the case of, NFTs, we're going to call a smart contract. And in the case of these smart contracts, we can start to add in all these different rules and all of these different, like a 20-page legal document. We can actually take that document and make it into a series of code that's going to be able to transact against that contract. So imagine right now, if you have a legal contract, you might have to reread it or hire an attorney and make sure that something's being complied to and revisit that every year. Right? If someone owes you money or you have royalties coming in, you have to do a lot of the chasing of the work. With the smart contract, it can be built into the system such that you will be receiving those royalties without having to do that sort of maintenance. That, I think, is going to change the creator economy. And again, in a way we haven't seen before. And currently, we're seeing a lot of that being launched in the music industry. And with the launch of Mavion, we're starting to see it done in the fashion, accessories, apparel industry. But my hope is that as we have more brands and more people launching NFTs, that they will be embedding, right, that creator economy royalty program in perpetuity for all of their projects. So that, I think, is just is super, super fascinating. Okay. So you'll see here's a roadmap. So when it comes to what are the components of an NFT, or how do you start to think about, hey, I have a friend who wants to launch a project. How do I do it? There are a few very simple components to this, right? Yes, Roberta, I hear you, right? So blockchain referencing, tracking creates pollution. Absolutely, right? Right now, we are in this very, very early stage of trying to figure out how to create a much more cleaner blockchain environment. It is tough, right? When we look at the scalability of blockchain computing, right, and what that excess spill-off is, right? And we look at that relative to other industries, it's still not that bad, but obviously we want it to be as negligible as possible. So we're very early on. It's almost like, think about when you first started seeing cars being built, right? The first cars, right? It's like all this pollution, all these natural resources were being used. And now today we have a Tesla. And so I would say, think of it in that framework, right? Blockchain is early stages. The more people we get her in the space, the more engineers, the more evangelists, the better the technology will be faster. And hopefully it won't take us so long to get to the Tesla of the metaverse and of blockchain. Now, here is an example here of, as we're looking at Rebecca Minkoff's latest NFT collection, right? And so what I think is so interesting about this is people are asking themselves, well, what is the utility of this NFT? What does it matter? Who is it for? And I have to be honest, when I went to take a look at this particular collection, I was like, this one's not for me. And so, like I said before, the artistic components, how we're creating it, it's still very early stages, guys, right? It's not like we have the Rembrandts or Picassos yet of NFTs. We certainly have blue chip NFTs and the ones that are starting to take steam. But the way that we're looking at the value of it, right, it still has yet to be determined over a long period of time. So let's talk about this and unpack this Rebecca Minkoff project. What I think is so exciting or interesting about this, and you'll see here about the assets, right? And what I love about this is she's basically saying, okay, here's the storytelling behind this avatar, right? You'll see here, this NFT creates a 3D asset, right? 2D collectibles, a turnable video. So you might be asking yourself, well, for me as a consumer, what does that actually do in terms of utility for me? It may not do much for you if you're not planning on using this avatar in the metaverse, right? In some sort of arena where it has its value. For you or for me, it might be more finding that value in looking at something that is maybe a utility based NFT, right? Which means I'm going to buy this NFT and it's going to unlock a product or an experience that I can then apply in my day-to-day life, right? So a lot of this, I think, is important, right, to consider. So let's unpack a little bit about kind of the components of what the heck is an NFT, right? What is the nature of it? And I'm sure you guys have been hearing a lot about it, and you're like, what is fungibility? What does that mean? How do I know if something is an NFT or if it's just kind of a picture that someone sent me? So let me kind of break down a little bit about what this is, right? Now, you guys are also hearing the term blockchain, right? So I'm not going to go deep into the tech, but the blockchain platform, right? The idea of blockchain really gives rise to lots of different verticals of things we can build on, right? And there are really like a few different ways that we can build. One of those verticals are NFTs, right? And that's non-fungible tokens. And the best way that I can use to describe it is if I had a quarter and you had a quarter, well, we could exchange those quarters, right? And they basically hold the same value, right? They're essentially the same thing, right? They are fungible. But when we think about a non-fungible token, right, that means that this is, if you have two eggs, a gold egg and a regular egg, those are not going to be the same thing, right? Yes, they're both eggs, but one is very different than the other, right? They are not fungible. They are not able to be exchanged. Similarly, right, when we think of an NFT, or you think about getting that contract, right, or getting that actual JPEG, what's fascinating about that is no one else can actually say that they have that because it is traced back to you. And the most powerful thing about this, you might say, well, who cares? Who cares if it's so unique? What's most interesting about the fact that it is so unique is when it comes to things like authenticity, right? Or when it comes to the opportunity of having a digital receipt, this is now verifiable, right? Across multiple different platforms. In the past, guys, we used to have to rely on paper receipts, right, in order to tell us that we actually own something. The insurance industry is really problematic because of that, right? It all relies on these paper receipts. But if you think about an NFT as almost like a digital receipt of sorts, it is now verifiable because it's on the blockchain by multiple parties, and you're going to be able to reference it and have that digital receipt until you decide to sell it or transact it. So that, I think, is the most interesting thing about it, right? So there's a sense of authenticity, transparency, because it lives on the blockchain. You don't need a stack of paperwork to prove what it is because it exists in this verifiable space. And so when we talk about NFTs, there are so many use cases. And obviously today I'm focusing on, how are we looking at the fashion side of NFTs? But the unlockable experiences around this can also really be seen in terms of, let's say, music, for example, right? Or attending an event. Imagine if today you guys hosted an event, right? Or even let's say when it comes to a conference, right? You have a big conference, everyone shows up. Well, do you remember like some of your conference badges that you keep, or some of the tickets, or some of the memorabilias and mementos? NFTs can also be issued very similar to how we think about concert tickets, right? Or things that are going to have lasting value to us, which I think is pretty incredible in terms of keeping a paper trail of memorabilia. Now, NFTs and blockchain also scare people. And I think one of the biggest arenas that it scares people around is specifically because of authenticity and transparency. Because if you think about a system in which I'm, sending Kelsey some money and she says, okay, I received the money. Well, that's between both of us. And maybe there's a bank that's going to be able to verify that, right? But in the world of blockchain, right, you're paying fees to buy an NFT or to buy a cryptocurrency because you want that transaction to be independently verified by multiple parties that are then adding that onto the chain. So think of your gas fees, right? Those transaction fees as really you paying for that authenticity. Now, instead of me saying, hey, Kelsey, I sent you, $10. And she's like, no, actually, I only got 5. You only gave me 5. We can actually say, hey, actually, here's the real amount that was exchanged because of the verifiability. And that I think is also so incredible about the future of our industry. So I've got a couple other really fun examples here, and so many resources. Obviously, I feel like today is just barely scratching the surface on everything, but I want to go into some resources and ways in which we can actually further the way we're thinking about things. There's an incredible French company called Ariane, and what I love about what they are doing is they are enabling, right? They are enabling brands to start to think about creating community, and how do we start to reward loyalty, and how do we get people together who are actually a part of these experiences? One of my favorite examples here is if you go onto like the Gucci Facebook group, or sorry, the Facebook page, you're going to see millions of people who are fans, but don't actually own the product, right? So how do you start to create digital access points for people who actually own the product, right? The people who are actually a part of this, a part of this ecosystem. And so blockchain is able to create those ecosystems by those smart contract receipts, right? And so this is a great example of creating community, leveraging blockchain and leveraging that digital receipt. So again, some of the biggest areas that we're seeing so much excitement around, right? So private communication, opening up all of these new technologies and ways in which we can track things back. I have a number of interesting brands right now that are looking at implementing sustainability through the traceability, leveraging the blockchain. And what is very important and exciting about the sustainability movement when it comes to traceability is that in the past, and I'm sure all of you guys hear this on the day-to-day, there's so much greenwashing. Where do we know that yarn is actually being, where do we know the yarn is actually being, created from, right? How do we actually know that the farmers are getting paid a fair wage, right? How do we actually know that we are giving resources back, and where are those resources going? And so when we think about the transparency component, and imagine every time something's transacted, it is on the chain. It is open and verifiable. I can see it, you can see it. There are no logins, no passwords. Everyone can see everything. And so I think one of the most exciting components of the blockchain is actually what it's going to mean in product development, what it's going to mean in terms of giving back to our farmers, giving back to our design communities. And when it comes to making sure people are getting paid a fair wage, how do we know what's being transacted? Blockchain will allow us to do so. So here are some other fun resources and places that I think are great to be able to play in. There's a platform called Digital X, and what they're doing is basically creating, super cool kind of online avatars and really kind of developing that 3D modeling, right? And what I think is so fun about this particular project is you're seeing some of the most creative pieces that are being born on the 3D metaverse. And what's amazing about that is in the past, when you would think about the barrier to entry for a designer who wants to get into a space, and maybe they are amazing at illustration, but they're like, hey, I don't actually know how to build the business, sell it, how do I build marketplace? How do I find a sales rep? All these things, right? They're amazing illustrators. And maybe they're so passionate about designing the most incredible pieces. Well, this space that we are in right now is the perfect space for a creative, talented person who is looking to express themselves in a particular way that suits their own skill set. Now, you can certainly go about building NFT projects and brands and creating metaverse experiences. But for someone who's just interested in playing and really designing and illustrating and playing with the technology, there's space for you. In today's world, in the fashion world, there is such a high barrier to entry to make something even as intricate as you see here on the screen. You know, where would you find it? What's the minimum? How are you sourcing? I mean, so many components. We still want them. I still love my party dresses. But if we look again at where the majority of people's time and energy is being spent in the world, will it always matter that I have a closet full of party dresses, or is it going to start to matter more if I have the digital party dress, right? So that I think is really amazing and incredible in terms of the space. And we also see things like the Global Designer Network, right? We see people who are just coming to the stage who are saying, you know what, anyone can have a seat at this table. And I don't care what my particular point of view is, but I'm gonna be able to find my people and find my community with what I am designing and building. That is also very new, right? Barriers to entry. Anyone today has the opportunity to create something, join a marketplace, or build their own community. And it doesn't matter, right, if your designs are following any sort of the traditional design merchandising components that we've been raised with, right? I feel like we've had all these systems and formulas of how we do things. Web3 is breaking the way that we do things, right? Is breaking the model. And where it might have been really difficult, right, to be able to find your community or find someone who likes your aesthetic, right? This NFT space is so open, and this Web3 world is so welcoming that everyone is finding their own community, right? And that I think is pretty amazing. Now, of course, there are some things that are actually like did not go so well, right? Not all these projects are kind of winners. Ramoa, I think, is an excellent example of a project that I think maybe could have been done better, right? And why is that? Well, when we're looking at the right kinds of product market fit, we really have to look at it from a, you know, consumer standpoint, right? Where is the attention? Who's giving me the attention? As it stands today, a lot of the attention is being given to us by Gen Z, right? Yes, I will explain about Web3 in more detail. Absolutely. And again, guys, please make sure you add stuff in the chat. The conversation can go in so many places, and I really want to make sure you guys are all walking away with something that's like, okay, I finally get this thing. But like I was saying, the idea of where the attention is, right? It's like, if I want people to buy my product, well, I need to go to where they are, right? Or I'm going to build a product for an audience. And so when I'm thinking about, you know, where are the brands and where are the people at? Well, the Ramoa audience is not necessarily that Gen Z audience. And this particular product is not necessarily appealing to that consumer, right? And so when we think about kind of what those opportunities are, we have to ask ourselves, yes, it's fun to design, it's fun to play, it's fun to build, but if I want to make some money doing this, right, and I want to be able to capture that market share, well, then I've got to be able to take a step back and say, okay, who's in the space right now, and how do I create for those people who are in the space? So how do we dive in a little bit more? Right? Obviously, we've got OpenSea, which is a fantastic platform for you guys to buy on the secondary markets. We've got Nifty Gateway, and these are all things you can just pop up on your browser and start to poke around and take a look at. Nifty Gateway, HeyLayer, Super Rare, Looks Rare. These are all platforms that you're going to be able to buy and sell and transact NFTs on. And if you're wondering, well, what are some of the more easier platforms and ways to launch an NFT? I'd say one of the very first steps to take a look at would be this platform called launchmynft.io, right? Very simple. And then I love NFT Now. They're a podcast, but there are lots of podcasts and, you know, lots of places where you can start to dive in and get some more information. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about Web3. I know we don't have too much time, but please, questions and all of that. This is really really your time, right? Your opportunity. So let's talk a little bit about Web3, right? And what exactly when we're talking about that, what does that mean? Well, when we're looking at kind of the technology evolution, right? So when we're talking about, people are like, well, what's Web 2? Web 2 is going to be the traditional ways in which we are engaging with each other from commerce, right? We have e-commerce, we have websites. We're kind of engaging with each other in a very two-dimensional way, right? This versus this, right? Web 3 is developing on the blockchain, and it's actually all of these different components that are coming together, right? So we look at things like developing avatars. We're looking at things like developing those incredible cryptocurrencies. We're looking at creating these immersive experiences through, let's say, some of the AR, VR stuff we talked about, right? We're looking at kind of building on the blockchain and all the different utilities in which we can. So I would think about Web3 as a movement, right? And all of the different ways in which we can build and create on it. Now, to my understanding, the sky is kind of the limit at this point, right? When it comes to thinking about what is possible. Yesterday, I had a girlfriend of mine showed me her new business card, and you could scan it. It opened up this like holographic experience, and then all of a sudden it translated into the phone, and it took us to her NFT curated site, right? That was an entire platform, right? That code and what it was built off of was built off of blockchain, right? And so we're looking at kind of the building blocks, right, of this space. At this moment, and this I think is really important, we have a huge influx here of engineers who are building product and who are building a lot of these ideas. What we don't have at this moment are the artists who are coming to the table to make these things meaningful to audiences, right? To consumers. And so when we start to ask ourselves, where's the opportunity for me or for my slice of the world or my viewpoint? What I think is really valuable here is to ask yourself, what is it that I want to create in this world? What is my expression or my talent? And then how can it actually be easier, right? And maybe it is going to be implementing something off of the blockchain. These days, what I've been hearing so much about is people who are rushing to build NFTs or rushing to be in the market without asking themselves, well, could I do this without it being a Web3 NFT blockchain project, right? Is it possible to build this in another way? And so I don't necessarily think it's for everyone at this moment, right? Because when it comes down to it at the end of the day, we still are going to do business with handshakes, hopefully still in the future. And if your business is running a small mom and pop store and you're not even ready yet to open up e-com, let alone start to accept cryptocurrencies, right? It really doesn't make sense for your next phone call to be like, okay, how do I build an NFT collection when you're busy selling to your local community, right? So that I think is also very important. All right, guys, I think we've got a few more minutes. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my screen share. I feel like I've gone a little bit over than I probably would have liked, but I'm very excited to get to hear from you guys. I'd love to know what questions, ideas, and things like that.
Can I ask a question? My name is Eric.
Yes.
Hi. So I am not in the fashion world. I'm an interior designer and architect, and I teach in the interior design department and the business school design thinking. And I came here by way of my students wanting to design galleries that show NFT artwork, as well as my business students who want to create business models using NFTs. So from a physical point of view, what does the space look like? Say if you're trying to bring brick and mortar to this world, this Web3 world.
Totally. Okay. A couple of resources. One is have them take a look at Someplace Social. Someplace is incredible. It's founded by Lana Hopkins. She also comes from fashion. She has a really great background. And they are right now in their kind of beta launching stages. So take a look at that project. I think that's like so amazing. The other thing that's really interesting right now is I've been working with entrepreneurs who are doing non-dilutive fundraising through NFTs. And so that is very important. So unlocking that from a business standpoint when it comes to people harnessing community. So here's the most important thing here. If you do not have community, none of this works. So when people are asking me, I want to launch an NFT project, my first step is go make a bunch of friends who care, you know, and then you can sell to those friends, right? Because if you do not have a community, the upheaval is it's so much work to build it and sell it. The other thing that's really important here is that you don't have to launch with a huge NFT collection. We hear a lot about these 10,000 piece launches. I think launching small and pre-selling those NFTs to your community so you have the almost marketing sort of hype here in terms of it being sold out, right? So when you're thinking about like building that sort of like momentum, people really care if it's sold out or not. And then in terms of looking at building business models, another thing I've been working on with brands right now is tracking all this back to their P&L. This is very difficult. NFTs and Web3 don't come out of your digital marketing budget. It might seem like it because it's like, oh, it's this fun postcard, digital postcard, or what is this thing? It's actually very different. This requires a lot of infrastructure build out. And so when it comes right now to building those teams, a lot of the engineers are expensive and really busy because there's a backlog of people who want to build. Now, I'm that person who like drinks a glass of wine at night or 2 or 3 and goes on Fiverr and tries to find people and build projects. You know, I'm that kind of crazy entrepreneur. But I would say when it comes to getting these projects off the ground, it's important to ask yourself, can I commit to the space for 5 years? Because we are not where we should be. It's like I said before about the first cars and the Tesla, you know, like we're not at Tesla yet. Like we're still like figuring out what the heck's going on. So my suggestion is to not look at it as a one-time kind of drop. It's to really look at it over time. And that's the only way you're going to be able to see your investment really pay off on this channel. Did that answer that, Eric? Was there any
Yes,
follow-up?
it did.
Yeah.
Thank you. I got a lot of notes here. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Yeah, of course, of course. Anyone else, guys? I like this.
Hi,
And Eric, if you want to
I
keep
put it in the
talking,
chat,
let's go.
but are
Yes.
NFTs expensive to create?
No. So here's the thing to consider. So that that one resource at the end, I was like, launch my NFT. .io. Take a look at that because it's actually really, really simple to be able to do it. I'll tell you what gets expensive, right? So quite literally, and I did this myself because I was like, oh, I need to. I mean, I can't design really well at all. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. So you can actually post anything, right, on OpenSea, for example, right? I uploaded a JPEG, I posted it. I couldn't sell it though until I minted it on the platform. I have to make it saleable, right? But you can absolutely create them, house them. And again, it doesn't have to be, you'll hear a lot about, you know, different layers of artwork, right? Rarity, making sure something is unique and special. Those are all kind of fine tuning of the NFTs, right? Those are people who are really interested in it in a different perspective. But you can absolutely take a photograph or a screenshot of what we have now, post the screenshot on OpenSea. I could list it to be sold, and Nicole, you might buy it, you know? So it's actually really, really easy. I think what's hard is actually saying like, what's the whole point of why I'm doing this? So like, you know, I can actually post this on OpenSea, but if you guys don't care and no one cares, then what's the point, you know? So again, to go back to this like community thing, you have to build a community or find one that's gonna care, right? And then launch. And the other thing that I think is so cool at this moment is like, imagine if every time someone opened up a website on Shopify and launched a business on Shopify, imagine if like every person who had a Shopify account who was involved with Shopify said, oh my God, Syama opened up a Shopify store and told everyone on Twitter and told people on Discord and got people excited. That would be amazing, right? Because it wouldn't matter what I built, what I had. People are just excited about the fact that people are in the space. And so in addition to your own communities, when you launch an NFT today, you are also marketing to a group of people who just like NFTs in the space. Like these are people who may not care that it's of a cat or it's of this because they're interested in it as maybe an asset class and holding value in it, or they love the technology, or they're interested in being a part of it because in this very early stage, we are in a movement, right? This is like everyone's excited. So I don't know how much longer that's going to last, right? Where every time you launch a project, there's people who are like, oh my God, that's so cool. But that is exactly where we are today. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank
Anyone
you.
else? Any more questions, guys?
Syama,
We've got a couple
may I
minutes.
ask a question? Can you?
Yes.
My name is Kathleen Argiro. I did ask the question about Discord, but I have a different question. So I know the NFTs, they're only supposed to be one of a kind, but it confuses me because I know people who actually will, put out a series of them, even like 500, and that they're so each of them is different because it's its own unique NFT contract. But doesn't it lose its value if there's 500 of them?
So, okay. No, and I'll tell you why. So basically,
Okay.
and this is so cool. Like, this is so cool. Okay, you guys might have heard there's a group, if not, actually you may not have, take a look at this organization. It's called My BFF. Okay. My BFF it's all women. It's founded by Jamie Schmidt and Britt Morin, so women in the CPG space. They hosted an event. I showed up to this event. My wallet address. They were like, oh yeah, give us your wallet address. I gave it to them. They airdropped me an NFT, right? I didn't pay for anything. And they airdropped like, I don't know, a couple thousand, like a lot of them. The same thing. It was a friendship bracelet. And what's so amazing, I didn't do anything. I gave them my wallet. Because of the scarcity and the hype around the fact that that NFT is going to unlock other things, or by having it, I can now have access to the next drop. That NFT has gone up in value. My time for attending that event and giving them my wallet is now trading on OpenSea. I want to say around $2,000. That was just my time. Right? And there are thousands of those NFTs. So again, it is not necessarily about the uniqueness of the art in so much as it is the utility or the reason why someone's getting into the space at all, right? And the way that I like to propose it to people is to think about it as an invitation. NFTs are an invitation. If someone gives you an invitation and you don't know who they are, well, it doesn't mean anything, right? But if someone says, oh, come to this party, and here are the things that you can do at this party. And now that you came to this party, you met all these other people, and that's going to unlock all these other parties you can go to. All of a sudden, you're creating an ecosystem, right? So NFTs are an invitation. Now, regarding Discord, Discord's a big pain in the butt. I like to think of Discord as like party drugs meets Slack meets like it is insane. I'm on like 30. Amy's like, So I'm on like 37 Discord servers. Go on there. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what the hell's going on? How do I pay attention to this? It sucks. Honestly, it sucks. And there's going to be a bigger way. Okay. There will be a better way. As of right now, unfortunately, it's the only way. So like, again, we're not at the Tesla yet. Discord, I think, is part of the madness now. Honestly, my hope is that these fashion brands will start to invest in general, that people will start to invest in new technology that actually makes this a little bit easier for us to be able to engage. So Discord sucks. It's a necessary evil. Spend some time on it. Start with one channel, and just like learn and poke around. But I don't really like it, and I wish I did. Telegram, bigger or rival to Discord? They're just different, right? It's like Telegram is also a huge pain in my butt. And like all of these ones, it's like, I missed 500 messages. So I'm like, really? Like, did I really miss 500 important messages? So they're all a pain in the butt. But Discord is the place, right? So if I were to say like the two platforms to actually be able to like that you should start to understand, Discord and Twitter, I think that's really important. And then Roberta, give me 1 second. I'm going to answer this question around ETH and Polygon. I would say at this moment, it is really, really like the area that I would spend some time on right now. Like, I think ETH right now has the most, like what I do when I think about like the different chains, I think of who's building what on these chains and where are the new iterations and where are the new developments happening? Where are the engineers going to build, right? And so for me, I would say ETH is Ethereum, I think, is great because people are continuing to iterate on that at a much faster pace. But that information is changing as we start to see different engineers building in different platforms. Yes, Roberta.
Two things. First of all, we seem to finally, the fashion world is coming into the position that the movie world has done for a year now. An FIT grad, Yvette Vargas, is at the New Hollywood movement, and a $50 million movie is being financed by the selling of NFTs, the camels. I don't know if you've seen it, Antara, the movie, and they're selling avatars of camels. That's the great news, because the gatekeepers, both in submitting scripts in Hollywood and in producing fashion or designs here, is the same thing. You get rid of those gatekeepers, and there's this community that you're talking about. It's fabulous. The last thing I'll say, and you're going to hate me for this, is in the fashion world, wearing clothing, what research has shown is what makes fashion, what makes clothing so important and affect our lives, our personalities, our physiology, is that the clothing, first of all, has symbolic meaning, and secondly, that we wear them, that we feel it. And the studies have shown that. So what happens to us all now socially in this non-tactile, non-feeling metaverses? It's just a dystopic note. And I don't know if you've thought about this, or what we do about this, or how we supplant that. I'm Roberta, and I'm done. Sorry.
Thank you, Roberta, for that high note.
I do, Roberta, and I so appreciate your perspective. What I think is interesting is we never really thought about these digital universes as being so emotional. And so the way that I think about things is, where do I actually find emotional connectivity? I didn't care about Zoom before the pandemic as much, right? But now I care about my background. I care about the filter. I care now. And so I think the difference is that we will always care about what we put on our bodies in so much as our lives are existing with each other, right? But I still have a bunch of sweatsuits right now from the pandemic that I'm still wearing, as well as my party dresses. And I'm developing an online persona that I never thought I would have. And so what I think is interesting here is we are in a space of evolution. And we have to look at where our emotional connectivity is and where we need to find meaning and value. And so I don't think we can avoid this. But so it's time. My parting words are: it's time to open up our arms and embrace the fact that our identities are shifting and expanding.
I would now like to introduce our dear colleague, Vincent Kwan, who is the Assistant Chair of the Fashion Business Merchandising Department. And he's going to talk about his hands-on experience.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And wanted to introduce you first and foremost to a partner of mine. First of all, we want to thank the Office of Online Learning and Academic Technologies, Tammy and Elaine, for pushing this forward, along with Jeffrey and Jose, in terms of the support. Joining me today is Mr. Nathan Yu, Chief Strategy Officer of Keystar Live. And Nathan will introduce himself in a second. Go ahead, Nathan. I want to go on camera.
Right. I'm Nathan, and I'm also a FBM grad 2018, class of 2018, and it's my great honor to be here. Thanks for having me.
So Nathan graduated from FBM as a great testimonial to FIT's reach. And Nathan is about 13 hours ahead, so you should know. He is in Seoul, South Korea, along with one of our colleagues I see online. Thank you very much. A shout out to Leonard Best for being up at this ungodly hour. Len, we appreciate it. So, and I'm Vincent Kwan or Vinny Kwan, so let's start. Okay, so today's agenda, we're going to cover we're going to do some level setting. We're going to cover blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, the metaverse in brief, because that's not the focus of our presentation today. And most importantly, we're going to take you through an NFT transactional walkthrough with the assistance of Nathan and his company. So take a look at this image. Can anyone tell us, just wants to shout it out, what this is? Any volunteer? Just shout it out.
A ledger?
It is a ledger. That is correct. Okay. This, in fact, is the predecessor to the blockchain in its simplest form. This ledger was the charge book for Mr. Henry Sands Brooks, founder of Brooks Brothers. And this ledger is dated April 7th, 1818, over 200 years. So in essence, the blockchain is a digital ledger, and it is a distributed ledger in which all transactions are recorded as blocks to form a continuous historical record of the item via a smart contract. So we figured we'd go through a couple of definitions, very important to level set. The next definition would be a smart contract. And what is that? A smart contract, okay, is a digital agreement between the buyer and seller, which is self-executed as code running on the blockchain. And then you may have heard some other terms, which we are going to, make you aware of. But the blockchain, in summary, is a decentralized and shared entity operating on Web 2 and accessible to all. Its records are immutable, meaning its transaction history is permanent and cannot be altered. That's one of the beauties. You know, Henry Brooks's ledger could easily be lit up and would turn to ash, but because the blockchain is a distributed ledger, it does not reside on one computer. It is worldwide on multiple computers. So there is redundancy. Again, it is a digital ledger, and a smart contract obviously is where each contract or transaction is executed automatically via a set of rules. You may have heard of the word minting versus mining. So I figured, Nathan and I figured that we would enlighten you a little bit about the concept of minting versus mining. And pardon us if you're way advanced and these concepts are very well understood, but we wanted to level set. So minting actually is the process of converting a digital file into a digital asset and storing it on the decentralized blockchain. The creator of this digital asset can actually create a perpetual royalty stream. And artists out there, designers and creative professionals, please listen up. Create a perpetual royalty stream by building in a commission every time the asset is resold. So this is how money is made. Not only initially on the first sale of that item or that NFT, it is made on subsequent sales of that same item in the hands of different owners. Very important point. Mining, on the other hand, is a process by which new crypto or cryptocurrency is produced and transactions are verified. These transactions are then recorded as blocks to form a continuous historical record, as we had said, of the item created via a smart contract. Oops, sorry. So what is a cryptocurrency, or what is cryptocurrency? It is a digital currency secured by cryptography, which is encoding, which serves as a medium of exchange or store of value. These are the two fundamental definitions: a medium of exchange, store of value, unit of account of real money. It is a digital asset stored on a network. And here's the part about the decentralization of cryptocurrency. It exists outside the control of governments and central authorities, of which the government is trying to obviously rein in some of this information. In terms of different types of crypto, let's take a look at a 5-day snapshot of 5 different types of cryptocurrency. Okay, first and foremost, on the left-hand side, you clearly see the most well-known and highest value cryptocurrency called Bitcoin. Okay, at 41,000 US dollars conversion. And on the bottom right, you see I would call the meme coin of Elon Musk, who keeps on tweeting about Dogecoin, sitting at 12 cents a share or a coin, 12 cents. And in the middle, you've got many different types. Ethereum is very popular, Binance Coin, et cetera, et cetera. But more importantly, I want you to take a look at the chart, everyone. The chart shows extreme volatility. This is just a 5-day snapshot. Can you imagine what a yearly snapshot looks like, or a monthly? And thus, this is inherent in the nature of cryptocurrency, volatility. So cryptocurrency's features include its decentralized nature, the fact that it's digital, okay, unlike the US dollar. It's anonymous, where the ownership is hidden. And in terms of supply, it's generally a finite supply or limited supply. Now, how does it start? Well, in order to buy crypto, you need a crypto wallet. And Syama mentioned this. Well, a crypto wallet is actually a virtual location where private keys to cryptocurrency are stored. It allows users to send, receive, and store crypto. Some major wallets that are out there include Coinbase, MetaMask, and Trust Wallet. So you'd have to set up a crypto wallet to begin with in order to venture into this new frontier. You may have heard the term crypto token versus crypto coin. Okay, there's a difference, actually. And let's shed some light on the quick difference. The major difference is that a crypto token is a digital asset built on another cryptocurrency blockchain. And a crypto coin is has their own native blockchain and is minted on that native blockchain. So that's the major difference, token versus coin. An NFT, as previously mentioned, is a digital asset. Think of it this way, in the form of art, trading cards or collectibles, sports moments, virtual fashion, etc. And it is verifiable on the blockchain. The acronym, of course, is NFT. So let's take a quick look and have a little fun here on some of these examples that are provided for all of us to take a look at in terms of examples of NFTs. Here we go. All right, can anyone tell us what this is?
Beeple.
Beeple. Who is Beeple? What is Beeple?
Someone's camera roll.
Go ahead.
Virtual.
10,000 pictures of students at FIT.
Good job.
He was the first NFT artwork that sold for $69 million, I think, through Christie's.
Yeah, it sold for $69 million, but actually it's sold in Ether. We're going to draw a very.
But was 69 million? Was that the USD like conversion?
That is correct.
Okay.
So one thing and the reason why we wanted to have this example and to discuss with the audience, we equate things in dollars, most of us. Okay. Well, actually, the entire concept of the metaverse, cryptocurrency, decentralization rests on cryptocurrency, which then needs to be converted back to whatever currency you wish to obtain. So we think of it as, Beeple's artwork of, it was called 5,000 Days, whatever it was, the first 5,000 days, actually was sold for the price of, and it's very difficult for us to comprehend, 38,525 Ether. Okay, which was equivalent at the time to 69.3 million US dollars. If you were to take that value right now of the 38,525 Ether, it is now worth probably closer to $100 million. So not only is the underlying artwork potentially, can grow in terms of value, actually the cryptocurrency can also rise or fall in value, thus affecting the asset that you bought. Okay, next one. Look at these two shall we say, caricatures. The one on the left and the one on the right. Does anyone know who these are or what these are? So Amy?
Bored
Bored
apes.
Ape Yacht Club, correct?
Yep.
All righty. So let me ask the audience, in terms of value, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. The one on the right or the one on the left, which one do you think is more valuable and why? Okay.
Didn't the one on the left get bought by Justin Bieber for
Yes,
like
it did.
over $1 million?
Yes, it did. Okay, but the one on the left or the one on the right, which one do you think looks like more greater value to you personally?
The one on the right.
Okay. Well, that's what I thought, to be honest with you. But let's put things in perspective. The Bored Ape on the left was purchased for 500 Ethereum coins by Mr. Bieber himself at the end of January. Well, the one on the right, and I thought he was a little more fashionable with his bandana, and you look at the layering that's going on there with the check shirt and the teeth and everything else. That one, Mr. Bieber actually went back in and bought it as well. He bought it in February for 166 Ethereum, equivalent to 470,000. So clearly you're seeing a huge disparity in terms of perceived value, right? Hype, trend, whatever you want to call it, from one collectible to the next. Next. Okay. Let's take a look at this video. All right. This is this model is called the X. It was launched by a firm that many of you may be familiar with in the news, RTFKT. It is a digital or virtual sneaker company that was purchased by Nike. Just for the record, this item was sold simply in US dollars for about $65,000. And it resides obviously virtually. Okay, let's look at a fashion item. Another fashion item. This is the Balmain flame dress. Okay, and it was launched, in collaboration with a gaming company. And so this was sold for about $8,000 at the time. I don't know if this has been resold since then. Okay, so where do we buy and sell these items? They reside on markets, okay? And markets, okay, basically are platforms where digital assets can be stored, exhibited, traded, bought, and sold. And some examples of markets are OpenSea, Rarible, and Binance's featured market. So this is the marketplace upon which you buy and sell your NFTs. An example of the OpenSea market demonstrates that the Bored Ape Yacht Club actually ranks #1 in terms of Ethereum volume. That's 37,522 in volume over the last 7 days generated on for the Bored Ape Yacht Club collection on the OpenSea marketplace. And briefly, as we decided to discuss, what is the metaverse? It's a virtual world where blended realities take place and participants can interact as if in a real world. It is the new frontier, we call it, where users live in a digital environment. And let's show you, Nathan was able to find this, okay, a nice video on Roblox.
down to the final hour. Born for this. You don't know who you're messing with. Warriors exist. You take a shot, better not miss. I was born for this. You don't know who you're messing with. You take a shot, better not miss. Yeah, I was born for this. You don't know who you're messing with. Take a shot, better not miss. Now you don't know who you're messing with. The warriors exist. You take a shot, better not miss.
All right, welcome to the metaverse from Roblox's eyes. So now we're going to start the transactional walkthrough that we promised you, and Nathan's going to be our pilot. Is going to pilot the plane in a few slides from now. But we decided to show you and build a presentation that explains Nathan's collaboration in his company, K-Star Live, and what it does with regards to creating NFTs. And so with this walkthrough, we hope to demystify the whole idea of what an NFT can and what it is and how it can be actually bought and sold from one user to the next. So let's take a look at this. I don't know if anyone remembers these, but a nostalgic mystery box, as we would call it, circa 1970s. If you remember very clearly, you may have wanted one of the items contained behind the in the glass enclosed case there, and asked your parents for a nickel at the time, and asked them for another nickel, and probably about 20 nickels thereafter. Okay, and still you didn't get what you wanted, and then your parent pulled you away and said, you know what, go get your own money, we're out of here. So fast forward, and jokingly, okay, 50 years later, which was where we are, over 50 years, okay, to 2022. So Nathan, would you like to take it away, please?
Sure, yeah. So in 2022, we have this NFT mystery box. As you can see from the video, people randomly receive the photo card inside the mystery box. So this is the K-pop NFT mystery box my company launched on a NFT marketplace called Binance. And before I go into further details, I'd like to give a brief introduction of my company and why and how we started to build this NFT project. Yeah, so K-Star Live is a South Korea's entertainment news and social media platform with a focus on all things Hallyu, be it K-stars, K-pop, K-drama, or K-fashion. And currently we have about 10 million subscribers around the world. And we aim to use our blockchain technology incorporated platform and a blockchain technology in general to further spread Korean wave around the world. Also, we through the blockchain technology, we try to bring the global fans and their favorite artists together. And currently, we have our token listed in 2 crypto exchanges, including Coin1 and MEXC. So next slide, please. Yeah, so the show Fanbox is a highlight clip of music program called The Show, made into NFT photo card. I'd like to describe a K-pop fan's behavior to explain our motive to create photo card NFT card. So when you buy a CD album for K-pop artists, there's a photo card embedded in the CD album. And since there are different types of photo card randomly embedded in the album, the fans purchase CD album until they acquire the photo card of the member they like or until they get what they want. So the photo card is something that K-pop fans are very familiar with and very popular. So we tried to implement this system that they are already very familiar with, but only blockchain was incorporated and the photo card was digitalized.
So Nathan, the artists that were appearing on the left-hand side here, in terms of the video content that you had showed, are you can own one of these cards?
Yeah, of course, as long as you pay for it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's take a look. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah. So, and our vision and the goal with our NFT was mainly three things: migrating K-pop fans to crypto world. They're converting traditional physical K-pop goods into NFTs. And conversely, we wanted to bring crypto users to K-pop world by introducing K-pop artists to K-pop NFTs. And, you know, we've actually got a few feedbacks from crypto users saying that they've got to know the K-pop artists through our NFTs and became a fan after all. And also with NFTs, we try to connect the fans and the artists together more closely.
So let me ask you, as a youngster, years ago, we used to collect, I don't know, baseball cards or football cards or hockey cards. And then the next generation started collecting Pokemon cards. So
Yes.
what is the vision? How do you translate that into what you do?
How do I translate it?
Yeah,
You know,
to digital.
yeah, just like I did, we are just transforming the existing goods, the photo card, into NFTs. And we are trying to migrate that existing consumer into digital world.
Okay, great, great. Okay.
And since there are about 10 million, more than 100 million K-pop fans around the world, we see a substantial potential in this market. Okay, on to my next slide. So the inspiration. So, okay, so those were three major visions for us. And the inspiration we had was from another NFT project called, maybe all of you know, may have heard about this already, NBA Top Shot. So NBA Top Shot is an NFT project that created highlight moments of NFT players into NFT cards. And NBA Top Shot has successfully converted physical basketball card collectors into NFT collectors. So today, the combined market cap value of all moments on NFT Top Shot is nearly $1.9 billion. And since there are, like I said, since there are about 100 million K-pop fans around the world, we really see the potential for ourselves as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you want to explain this to us?
Yeah, I'm gonna explain. So what we did to become the next K-pop version of NBA Top Shot. So here's what we did. So we acquired the NFT business right for the music program, The Show, and through the agreement with the entertainment labels, we have acquired NFT IP right for 26 artists from 6 different groups and 6 different labels. And from the raw footage that was just played by Professor Kwan on the left, we converted that raw footage into NFT cards, which will be played in a minute. Yeah, this is the NFT card minted from the raw footage from the left.
So can I ask a question, Nathan? I mean, you know, the images and the video, I get it now. It's like an NBA Top Shot. It shows not only the artist but some action. But why is there no sound?
Oh, so you know how I said we acquired the IP right for NFT, but that does not include the music right. So the music is still detained by the media company, so we cannot include the music in there.
Okay, thank you very much. Understood.
Yeah, so I will give you an overview of what the Show Fan Box is. So the Show Fan Box is a collection of photo cards styled NFT, and the fans, crypto users, receives a photo card randomly when they purchase the box. And as I have said previously, one of our goals with NFT was to connect the fans and the artists and bring them close to each other. So for this, we have assigned the various benefits to 2 most rare cards, which I will show you. My next slide.
Yeah, and let me explain a little bit to our audience and guests, Nathan, some of the numbers here, because that's one of my fortes. So, you know, Nathan actually introduced me to the Show Fan Box promotion in November of 2021. And he said to me, hey, you know, you want to participate in an NFT purchase? I said, yeah, I'm interested. What's it take? He said to me, it takes BNB, Binance, okay, crypto, which I had none of. Anyway, so I was able to secure some Binance crypto. Thank you very much. And he then went on to explain how the mystery box actually occurs in terms of the randomness of obtaining whatever artist shows up in your purchase. There are, as you can see from the bottom, different ranks: legendary, epic, super rare, rare, and common. The card, the photo card that you really want to get is the legendary one or the epic one. And the reason is its rareability, right? Or rareness. Look at the issuance amount. There were a total of 25,000 photo cards issued digitally, of which only 31 or 0.12% happened to be legendary cards. So clearly, if you were able to secure a legendary card or even an epic card and try to resell it, the value, because of its rarity, should be, in theory, higher. On the other hand, to the far right, you've got common cards. There were about 19,500, or 78% of the cards were common. And the odds are that if you made multiple NFT purchases on the Fanbox, a majority of them, 78% statistically, would have been common cards. But as you can see, the title of this slide says "with utility." And I want Nathan, if you could, to explain what does the word NFT with utility actually mean?
Yeah, so utility in NFT means if you own something that gives you some benefits. For example, for our campaign, for those who win the rarest cards, such as Legendary and Epic, they will receive the benefit of lifetime access tickets to the music program, The Show Filming Studio. That means they get to watch the live performance for their lifetime. So also for some people, even trip to Korea is covered by my company, Taste Alive. So we really believe that this is something, some sort of a utility that really connects the fans and the artists together.
Well, true disclosure, I did not buy or earn a legendary card. I ended up with several common cards, for the record, so I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, Nathan.
All right.
All right. Next. So what are these?
Yeah, these are some actual photo cards from our collection. You can have a glimpse of it. Yep, they're actually the videos. Yep, they were all minted on Binance Smart Chain, and they still reside on the Binance network.
Okay, great.
All right. Okay, so I want to talk about how our collection was ended. So nearly 5.5K boxes were sold in 2 weeks period of time, and approximately 100K USD revenue was generated for the collection. And most importantly, our campaign was tweeted by CZ, who's a founder of the world's largest crypto exchange, Binance, and he's also the 11th richest man in the world. So what really meant for us that showing his interest on K-pop NFT means that he saw the huge potential of K-pop fans becoming crypto users, and that what kind of synergy would create. So after our campaign, after CZ showed his interest in K-pop NFT, Binance has just partnered up with YG Entertainment, which is a label for Blackpink and other huge artists. And also a lot of entertainment in Korea began to partner up with crypto companies.
So in looking at this, I'm the fortunate owner of 5 NFTs issued by the show, Fanbox. And I can tell you that the investment of these collectibles, photo cards, was not much. 0.03 BNB is approximately less than $20 US. So unfortunately, I could not afford a Bored Ape Yacht Club collectible, nor a Beeple for sure. So I've invested or purchased 5 of these. And in terms of the blockchain history viewable on BSC, let's take a look visually of what that actually looks like and or appears to be.
Sure,
Hold on, let's show the video. Okay. So this is a screenshot of a transaction, the transaction history that Nathan and I conducted earlier, and actually several months ago. So Nathan, you want to take us to this first screenshot? What is it saying? What is it telling us in the
Yeah,
block?
so it says the age, this is the BSC scan where the every transaction made on Binance Smart Chain is recorded. So, and this is the transaction history of the NFT that Professor Kwan owns. It says the age 107 days, 10 hours ago, it was minted, and from the minting address, it was transferred to Mr. Kwan's wallet once he made a purchase.
So this one, if you notice the difference, right? 107 days ago, it was minted. And then on the a more recent transaction, when the screenshot was taken, what does this show here on the top transaction?
It shows that 31 seconds ago, it was moved from Professor Kwan's wallet to someone else, which is me. And that means Professor Kwan has listed his asset on the market and I have purchased it. And that was recorded on the BSC scan.
So basically, I had to put up one of my photo cards for sale on the BSC featured marketplace. So I put in a price, just to explain it to you, and then I put it out for sale, upon which Nathan became aware of it and could see the actual token ID or location. And then basically he purchased it. Afterwards, it was clearly shown on the blockchain. And then finally, the last one, Nathan.
Yeah, next one, clearly shows that it was once again moved from my wallet to Mr. Professor Kwan's wallet, which means I listed my assets purchased from Professor Kwan on the market, and he purchased it back from me.
Okay, and if you actually look at the numbers, the from and to, the from and to are the ownership IDs. So on the 12 minutes ago, you can see a from ending in like BD, and then it goes to owner number 3 at the very last number there. And then it went reverse 29 seconds ago. And then again, this was taken earlier in the day from owner 3, which was Nathan, back to me, which is the BD, whatever it was on the identifier. So clearly, when we talk about the blockchain, all of these transactions are verifiable and fully visible on the blockchain.
Yeah, next slide. Yeah, this is my personal point of view, but I believe that K-pop is not just the only industry that will take a huge part of crypto ecosystem, but fashion, art, and lots of industry will benefit from blockchain as well. I think fashion is one of the biggest one. For example, metaverse industry is growing bigger and bigger by time, and fashion is a must element in the metaverse. So the avatars in the metaverse need clothing, and people expresses their identity through the clothing in the metaverse as they do in the real life. So that's why a lot of fashion brands like Gucci produces NFT clothing and sell in metaverse. I know. So, and I know there are a lot of bunch of aspirated designers in the FIT, and I personally believe metaverse will really open up new opportunities for them that never existed before.
And I would actually, I totally agree with the perspective. From a business perspective, we've basically opened up a new channel, a new sales channel via NFTs, in addition to the other channels physical that we've got. So this is a tremendous opportunity. And as mentioned in several of the Forbes articles upon which I collaborated with, we did state for the record that luxury fashion firms are on it, especially because this is a huge revenue stream for them, as evidenced by Gucci's recent phenomenal performance selling their NFTs.
Yeah, I personally believe, after the e-commerce was born, I think metaverse will be the biggest distribution channel for fashion.
And you know, as a segue into a potentially future workshop conducted by FIT, Nathan was kind enough to actually create a bonus few slides with us to demonstrate the process for all of our creative colleagues out there on specifically how to create NFTs on Binance's smart chain. So Nathan, take it away.
Yeah, so I saw someone chat about how to, they asked about how to create an NFT for themselves. So next step is I'd like to show you guys how to actually create your own NFT. So, and there are many marketplaces, but I will take the feature market as an example, since the minting fee is insanely lowered with BSC compared to Ethereum. So process is very simple, that anyone who can order a Grubhub, food from Grubhub, they can mint their own NFT. So first, as you can see from the page, you have to click on Mint NFT. And next slide. Next page, you have to fill in informations like title of your work, description of your work, category, etc. Also, you have to set up a royalty fee percentage. For mine, I set it up for 10%. That means if I sell my piece to Professor Kwan and he sells it to someone else in this room, I'll get 10% from the sale price. So next step, you need to confirm your, so on to the next slide.
Yeah, hold on one second. I want to delve on this because this is
Sure.
a very important business point that we've got to make here. So
Yeah.
you're getting a perpetual 10% revenue stream off of the NFTs that you create. That's what you're saying. So
Yes.
this thing could change hands multiple times, and
Yes.
you're still cashing in terms of crypto, whatever crypto it is, Binance coin, you know, time and time again. And it's built perpetually into the blockchain. It can never be broken, correct?
Correct. And the commission, the 10% will automatically deposit it into my wallet because of the, thanks to the smart contract.
And to me and to us, this is one of the most intriguing aspects of NFT creation and the transactional nature of NFTs. I don't know about the audience, but to me, this is quite interesting. You know, as an example, Jeffrey and Jose on the photographs in my office are experimenting with my dad's. He's 87 years old, black and white photographs taken many years ago. Some of these photographs are 50 years old. Developed in his own darkroom. So we're playing with this idea. And I like the 10% revenue stream, Nathan, personally.
Yep, that's good. All right, so next step, you have to confirm your gas fee. Gas fee, as explained, is the network service usage fee. And you can pay your gas fee with the crypto wallet called MetaMask. And next page.
Okay, so hold on. So let's clarify what the gas fee is. Nothing is for free, right? So this is sort of a transactional fee that is part of the, I mean, I guess the expense or the cost of creating or minting your NFT, correct?
Correct.
And it's very small, right? Very tiny, as you can tell by the number of decimal places.
But if you use Ethereum, you have to pay about $30 to $40, depending on the time of the network business. But Binance Smart Chain is really cheap.
Okay, so that's one thing to be aware of.
Yeah.
All right, what do we have here?
Yeah, so now your NFT is minted and ready for sale. So I actually minted my photography this morning, and now I'm just hoping that Professor Kwan would buy it from me.
All right. Well, I think we're going to skip the buying part. But what's it being sold for? 0.05 BNB, which is approximately what, about $20 US.
Yes.
So we can walk you through this figuratively. This buy now button would highlight yellow when Nathan puts it up for sale. The price would be set at X, 0.05 BNB, and then before I confirm the purchase of this Manhattan View NFT from Nathan, the platform would ask me to not only pay the 0.05 BNB, but to pay the gas fee as well that they've incurred on top. And then all I would do is click on the confirm, and then the transaction would be executed over a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So after the transaction would be executed, what would appear, I guess, here, Nathan?
Transaction history.
Okay. And again, as demonstrated on the blockchain. So this is the initial minting.
Mhm.
So it shows no transaction history because this screenshot was taken before any transaction purchase occurred on my side or any purchaser, and it shows that the method was mint 11
Correct.
minutes ago as of that time.
Exactly.
Okay, and there's your ownership ID with the 3 on the end. I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in summary, let's talk about NFT's features, and there's some key terms that are great to write down. Immutability, transparency, traceability. You know, in terms of the NFT, it's a publicly recorded data. It has publicly recorded data with records that can be accessed by anyone, number one. Its records cannot be changed. The creator of the NFT, in this case it was Nathan, is recorded. And all past owners, every single past owner is listed. And you can tell by the ownership ID. And this historical transaction history and traceability occurs. Why? Because all events since the NFT smart contract was created are shown on the blockchain. And thus, this is why, you know, NFTs are special in themselves with regards to these features. Okay. With that said, I'm going to stop the presentation. And again, we have many references here just for the record, tons of references. But we'd like to open it up to Q&A and let it ride. Let's go.
You've made money on this already, right? In cryptos, in digital currencies. If you want to convert it to a regular currency.
Okay, if you want to cash out, okay.
Right, right. And
got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how remember how I made about 100K USD dollar after my collection? So I received that $100 100K US dollar in BNB through my MetaMask wallet, and I transfer the BNB in my wallet to the Binance exchange, and I sell the BNB and I send it to my bank account. That's how I cash it out from my revenue. Does that answer your question?
So the bank converts it for you.
No, it's the exchange. I sell my BNB on exchange, and it becomes a fiat. It becomes US dollar, and I withdraw my US dollar to my bank account.
Okay, and if you want to get rid of the NFT because, say, you're gonna die or whatever, so your heirs, inherit, your assets. How does that work?
Okay, so I personally hope that doesn't happen very soon, even though I have COVID right now. But if that happens,
well, we
I have to
teach succession planning, so yeah, so we do.
Yes, then in that case, I have my NFT assets stored in my MetaMask wallet. Then I have to transfer that NFT asset to someone else's MetaMask wallet. So that's how I, inherit them.
So you would trade it.
Transfer.
Yeah. And that's how the money laundering occurs these days. People buy NFTs from someone else with insane money, to avoid the taxes for inheriting.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Anyone else?
Vinny?
Yes.
In the chat, there are a few questions also.
Okay, so where do you want to start?
Let's see. Well, first of all, Akio mentions that in New York State, she believes residents are banned to use Binance. Are you familiar with that situation?
Yep, we are familiar. So there's, again, the government is trying, or local state governments are trying to limit these cryptocurrencies from being bought or sold in specific states, and that's on a state-by-state basis.
I use the Binance actually at the BPM. Yeah, I have a different address in Japan, so I become like a kind of Japanese citizen when I trade it. But I think, I wish I can use that as a United States residence, but I realize that we cannot use the Binance, right? The New York resident.
Yeah, and truthfully, when you say Binance, there's so many other options. Like again, Ethereum and Bitcoin's very expensive, but one of our members, our colleagues, mentioned Coinbase. Coinbase is a publicly traded company, so it is under the scrutiny of the Securities and Exchange Commission. And truthfully, that would probably be a very good source for you to start and see what types of crypto are authorized, because clearly they've got SEC approval to buy and trade certain cryptos on their site. So
Right,
Coinbase
exactly.
would be a recommendation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Binance is much more, has so many different, you know,
Right.
like a network chains, and just the Coinbase is just the Ethereum.
Yeah, so
for
yeah, personally for US resident, I personally recommend crypto.com, FTX, and Coinbase. They have a lot of products. Yeah, just like Binance, they have derivatives, DeFi's, lots of features there. So I recommend you go there.
Okay.
It's a shame it's very limited. Okay, thank you.
You know, you're welcome. Fraud factor. Eric asked the fraud factor. The fraud factor of what? Can you specify, Eric?
Yeah, I'm asking mainly in this process, how can somebody like kind of come into the account and draw money out, you know, like a regular bank account?
The password is that key is the password. If somebody gets hold of your password, they can liquidate your account, and it's gone quickly. 1, 2, 3. So this is where the cryptography and the term cryptocurrency came into play, because the account is controlled by a secret whatever key, and you lose that key, you lost everything. But if I lose my bank account number, I just walk over to Chase down the corner here and give them my ID, and they can recover, you know, my card and my account information. But if you lose your ID in terms of your password, secret password, you're in trouble. You're gone. It's gone, or someone gets access to it.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, next question. Trade name or pen name? So Nathan, in setting up a crypto wallet, can you use a trade name or a pen name? Or it's really just, you know, how detailed is the information? I set up MetaMask, I remember, but I frankly don't recall how much information I gave them.
Yeah, you're allowed to use pen name or trade name to whichever you want to use.
Okay, so it is possible.
Yes, it is possible.
Okay. Next question. Buying.
Yeah, Jane's
Property.
asking about buying an NFT. How do I search to buy one?
OpenSea would probably be one of the major exchanges. But what we don't know is the validity of, you know, where everything is coming from, meaning it's there, it's for sale. And you know, one thing about NFTs and crypto that all of us should be aware of, and when we talk about investments, you know, because I'm proud to say, I've got to announce this, that we recently on Monday launched the FIT Investment Club with our students. Okay. And this was spawned by huge interest in our student body. So I asked my students if they were interested. I said I would be their faculty advisor. And I said that the concepts that we would cover in regards to the investments would include physical, real estate, stocks and bonds, as well as NFTs and cryptocurrency. And again, this is a newly launched club, so tell your students to join us as a plug. But more importantly, when you're buying real estate, okay, in the metaverse, there was one individual who bought what was it, Decentraland? What was it called? Snoop Dogg, okay, purchased some property in the metaverse, and some individual spent how much, Nathan? 450,000 or something?
Yeah, something like that.
As a neighbor to Snoop Dogg on something that's not tangible. It's metaverse digital property. So that's all I can tell you on that, Judith.
Vincent, first of all, you know, thank you for, you know, fabulous presentation. I think it totally complemented the kind of information that Syama was giving out in the first hour, and you added depth and dimension to it in a different perspective in the second. Right. So if you guys want to have like a, you know, continue an informal chat, knowing that our three speakers are all online, and you can just put it right in the chat or open up your mic and shout it out. So questions are open. If you will please.
I have this question. So like for fashion designs to be in retail sectors, we requires all these not only the fashion design students, but also who can make patterns and gradings and all these physical supply chain labor. for the metaverse or the digital fashion, instead of them, what do we need? In the physical fashion clothing, we need like pattern makers and drapers and all these actual physical labors to create garments, like sewers. For fashion, for digital, who do we need? What kind of professions do we need?
It's a good question.
I believe, Benny, that she's talking about what 3D virtual prototyping software they would use to create the garments. And Amy could speak on this as well, which would be Clo 3D, Browseware, Optitext. You can jump in, Amy.
Yeah, well, Leonard, we all know though that skills are completely transferable. You need your pattern maker, you need your merchandiser, you need your fabric person. All those eyes are absolutely transferable into the metaverse. It just means that the output is digital. It's just not an IRL or real life garment, but it is a digital facsimile of it. So every one of those people in the production network right now are pretty valuable in the metaverse. Maybe not the guy cutting the fabric, but everybody else.
And you know, the ramifications for FIT are clear. We can speak frankly. We need to be on this edge, not behind it. And you know, when you think about this digital world, we need to start creating a curriculum. We need to use software, and we need to stay ahead of the competition, who's just down the block too, in terms of providing our students with the best ammunition and tools for virtual VR, virtual reality, and the metaverse jobs and opportunities. Thank you for the question. Thank you, colleagues, for the support.
Syama, while you're still here, was there anything that came up in Vincent's presentation that you maybe wanted to expand upon, and some of the questions you've seen come for him?
You know, I think it was wonderful. It's really thorough. I did see something come through on my Twitter that I wanted to share with everyone. We were talking earlier about what's the utility of the product, and a friend of mine posted on her Twitter. She said, "I've managed to get myself into the Decentraland Fashion Week, but now I need to upgrade what I'm wearing," because she found herself in the fashion show hanging out with all these people, and she was like, "Oh, my outfit doesn't go with like where all these other people are wearing." And I just thought it was such a funny of this moment to see her post like this utility that we're trying to figure out what the point of it is. Anyway, I wanted to share that. I thought it was kind of funny.
And thank you, Syama. And the last comment I would probably want to make is you know, pretty real. And here's what I see just as an example. You know, our students used to conduct you know, job interviews face to face. And look at the progression, you know, COVID related and beyond. So face to face then morphed into virtual, you know, Zoom calls from the chest on up. And then another type of interviewing process occurred, and these are all very verifiable because we speak to our students all day long. You know, there was a hire view, HIREVUE. This was a company that recorded students' responses to questions posed by the prospective company. And they had several chances to actually practice their recorded answer. And finally, the final, you know, recording went through. And then the company would review these videos at their own time and select the candidate potentially for, you know, a full-time position. Look, in the future, what does it look like? It potentially could be, okay, Chanel, okay, interviewing a potential store manager, virtual or physical, and saying, go meet us in our, you know, store in so-and-so location. It's totally in the metaverse. You're going to be dressed up, hopefully in clothing that looks very Chanel-ish and very high-end. And they're going to have their avatar right there, and you're going to be conversing and talking about the assortment or the collection for any brand, regardless of Chanel. So this is progressing. But as Syama said, I would agree. We are, you know, we're making progress slowly but surely. But for it to manifest itself, I think it was Zuckerberg who said 5 to 10 years fully. But again, remember one thing, and this is, you know, I'll harp on this all day long. In the metaverse, and I've said this before, we cannot touch, we cannot taste, and we cannot smell. right now. So the human senses,
Yeah.
physical, has a tremendous advantage because we can not only see and hear, but we have those three other capabilities. Right now in the metaverse, we can see and we can hear. When someone's able to put us in a holographic sort of simulation where we can actually taste, touch, and smell, then it will be totally overcome in terms of those obstacles.
Touch is actually
So
already
cool.
happening now.
Yep. So we're getting there.
It's
Yeah,
happening.
there's
I
the
just
smell.
saw, Vincent, there was like a I just saw, I think it just came out the other day that some developers are figuring out how to create pain in the metaverse, and they're figuring out, which is interesting, right? It's like they're figuring out how to create these how to mimic pain and pleasure, you know? And I think that like that again, when it comes to like the emotional, I think it's really, it's like, how do we get people right now? It's that whole FOMO thing. But if you can get someone to feel pleasure and pain, oh my gosh, we're in for it.
Forget it. Yeah. Well, there's this, the computer to human interface, is something that's been worked on for a really long time, and trying to bridge all these areas that Vinny was just talking about. So it's fascinating.
Can I ask a quick question? It has to do with this, the idea of making the garment and how many people are involved with making the garment. And if that garment becomes an NFT, does everybody who factors into the making of that garment get a residual, get a royalty?
They can. I mean, it's really up to the person who's developing it. I mean, it's just like they can or they cannot. I mean, it's really, it's all fair game. Just like it can also be a very sophisticated garment, or it could also not be, just like you have a basic black t-shirt, or you can have, it's like it can all, that's the cool thing. It can all be whatever the hell you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to add to what Syama says, Eric, in the fact that if you have a single owner, of a specific NFT, it becomes very difficult to cut this deal. Oh, I contributed to X. So I would say that the owner who created that smart contract, okay, or minted that NFT, excuse me, is the driver of the vehicle, of the car. Because how are you going to see multiple iterations of an item resold? Only you will see the revenue stream, the royalty revenue coming to your account. And how do you then say, okay, let me share some of that with you?
Got it.
A great question, though. Great question. All right.
Thank you.
I think we're
Thank
good.
you very much.